Hey guys, welcome back to the Kool-Aid Podcast. Welcome back to episode 52. On today's episode, we're going to be giving our match predictions. Well, not our match prediction, our reaction to Brazil versus South Korea and Japan versus Croatia. There were another round of the round of 16. We saw some very exciting football. Let me introduce my co-host, Alex.
Hey guys, how's it going? Good to be back, after a few days, with finals and a lot of school stuff at the end of the semester, but
Yeah.
glad to be back. And we will give our prediction about the games tomorrow too at the end, so not
Yeah,
just
yeah, yeah, exactly. We'll be talking a little bit about tomorrow. But the first game that happened, it was Japan versus South Korea. It ended in a 1-1 draw, and it was pushed all the way into penalties.
Japan versus Croatia.
Yeah, yeah.
I think you said Japan and South Korea.
Oh, Japan South Korea. Japan Croatia.
Mhm.
Japan Croatia ended in a 1-1 draw. And it went all the way to penalties. And that's where Croatia won 3-1. And it ended in a Croatian victory. Now, what are your thoughts on that game?
Well, that was I thought it was a good game. A very evenly matched game. I feel like a lot of people have doubted the Japanese team going into the World Cup. I know a lot of people like them too because they're underdogs and no one really expected them to get this far.
Yeah,
At least I didn't, considering the group they were in. Um, but just how we saw miracles happen, and they topped the group,
yeah,
and it was unfortunate. Fair play to the Croatian team. They always, it's one of those countries that kind of reminds me of Uruguay um, in previous World Cups where they don't have the best team, but they always manage to inflict a lot of damage to good teams, and we saw this today. I thought Japan overall um, are the superior side. The way they play, and I understand that Croatia, player per player, they're a better team, but excuse me, given the performances, I thought Japan was the better side, and clearly we saw something different today. Like I said, very close game. Good header from Perisic and a
yeah. It was a very
good
good goal.
goal from I can't remember the Japanese player, but it was a good
I
cross.
think it was Maeda. Yeah, Maeda.
Yeah, Maeda, and it was a good cross, good finish. And no, I thought it was a good game. Of course, like I said, um, it was either team's game. It was a 50-50,
Yeah,
and we
uh-huh.
saw that in penalties.
Yeah, yeah. We basically said this before in the previews that we made like before on the channel that Japan were a very strong team. Like it was a team that shouldn't be taken lightly. And we saw in the previous World Cup the performance that they put in, uh, almost beating Belgium and going
Yeah,
into the semis. And and now you saw in this tournament they beat not only Germany but they beat Spain, and they took the basically the second place team two penalties. So like they're a very good team. And I believe that Japan played really good in the first half. I believe they played slightly better. Um, just I think going into like extra time and then penalties, I think Croatia just had the advantage over Japan. That experience just it mattered. It mattered. In those high situations, it just showed. And I
yeah,
think
yeah.
that
They,
reflected
they
in the penalties they take out.
yeah they have seasoned players like Lovren, Modric, Perisic. It's a veteran team. Although there's a few good young players, but it's mainly a veteran team, and
Yeah. Hmm.
we can see this, right? They're not the fastest, they're not the strongest or the most physically fit at times when you compare with teams like Senegal or even Japan, teams that are more about that physicality and that speed. But um, we do see that they definitely have the tactics, they have the technical ability, and they gave Japan a great game. I would say I believe earlier in the World Cup I had Japan as one of my dark horses. I will
Yeah.
say Croatia is also a team you have to watch out for. Um, whoever they play, it's not going to be an easy task.
Yeah,
I
I
believe
definitely
it's
agree.
Brazil who they play next.
Yeah, they're gonna play Brazil next.
And, all I'm going to say is Brazil does not have an easy game. I feel
Hmm.
like this Croatian team is going to mimic a lot of what it felt like to play Switzerland for Brazil, where they barely won 1-0. Sure, of course, they had um,
Hmm.
the majority of the ball possession and the chances created, but still, Switzerland played a great game against them, and Had they
Mhm.
held the tie, in a knockout round that can go on for another
Yeah, and then
30
on top of
minutes, we go to penalties.
on the top of that, I think Croatia have slightly better players than Switzerland. You have Luka Modric, you
Oh
have
no, no, no.
Perisic on the wing.
I don't think it's slight. It's not a huge difference, but I think it's a significant difference in
Yeah,
quality.
it's a
And
difference in
also,
quality.
it's something we said, experience. These are all players that have done this before. They've been to a
Hmm.
World Cup final.
Hmm.
They have a lot of great players for their club,
Exactly.
such like Modric, who's
And
one
then
of the
you
legends.
remember, and then you remember in the 2018 run to the final, a lot of the games that they played, they went into extra time. They went
Mhm.
and they went into penalties, so they're completely comfortable. Hey,
Yeah, they can deal with the pressure.
exactly. If the game can't be resolved in the 90 minutes, hey, let's go into extra time. Let's go because we're completely comfortable. We know what it's like in there. We're comfortable in that. And then if we go into penalty shootouts, we can go into penalty shootouts. Um, but well done to Croatia.
Yeah, I respect them a lot. And they're a team that has shown fight before, right? In 2018, we
Yeah,
saw them eliminate England. I didn't
yeah.
see that coming. I thought England were going to win,
Hmm.
but I mean, they played great. And respect to Japan. It was sad seeing them leave.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
think they won the hearts of a lot of
Hmm.
fans all over the world. Because of how humble they were, how what a good team they were playing together, and
And they
I like
basically
to
had
see
that
more.
underdog thing as well.
Right, of course, we always like to see the underdog give upsets to bigger teams, but I like to see more of this in the next World Cup. I think they're a team that deserves to get far in the tournament.
Yeah, and then that's basically I think their spot is basically guaranteed, just because in the next World Cup it's going to be I think 48 teams included. So it's like basically hey, let's have everyone on the World Cup. I think it's going to be like that.
Mhm.
And they have another good chance to show what they're about.
For sure.
Um, but the second game that was played today was Brazil versus South Korea. Now it was a completely different story from the very first
Oh
game.
yeah.
The first game was tie. It was like it went all the way to penalties. It was such a close game, a competitive game. This one it was Brazil just completely demolished South Korea. They just ran over them. It ended in the first half 4-0. In the second half, I thought Brazil just completely took their foot off the gas and like, you know what, like, hey, this is like basically a training session right now. Let's just basically run down the clock.
Yeah,
Um,
they even swapped the goalkeepers to give them
exactly,
playing time. Yeah.
exactly. They even swapped the goalkeepers that basically have everyone have some minutes. But Brazil looked unstoppable in that first half. They looked on fire.
Yeah, and this is a warning for any other possible contenders like
Yeah.
France, Argentina, England.
Hmm.
It's a team you gotta watch out for, and of
Yeah.
course, for Spain. And it's not a team that can be taken lightly at all. And people know this, right?
Yeah.
I believe they're still the favorites to win the World Cup, and they're
Yeah.
showing why that is.
No, they definitely are the number one favorites to win the entire competition.
Yeah, and we see this with the quality they have. They have such a stacked team.
Hmm.
I can't think of a single position where I'm like, well, maybe in the fullbacks, right? But even then, like their
Hmm.
fullbacks aren't bad. Dalo, I think, is decent enough to do the job, and then like you have that attack that's so unstoppable.
Yeah.
Richarlison is, I'm
He's
seeing a
on
lot of
fire.
comparisons between him and R9, and
Yeah.
especially
He's
playing like that, right?
yeah.
He's
He's on
walking the
fire.
talk.
Uh huh.
And it's I obviously love seeing him play like that because he's part of a club I support, Tottenham, and I just think he's been phenomenal. Now this is something Antonio Conte has to take into account when the players return back to their clubs, because currently at Tottenham, yes, he's playing, but he's coming a lot off the bench. I think maybe he should do some configurations to the system and try to see if he can fit all four attacking options in Kane, Richarlison, Kulusevski, and Son.
Yeah. But play with a 4-2-3-1 maybe. Have Son left, Kane top. Uh, where would you play Richarlison then?
I was thinking more like 4-4-2, but I mean,
4-4-2. 4-4-2 is also a good option. Have Kane and Richarlison as both the strikers, and
yeah, I just think it adds a lot more firepower. But be that as it may, um, again, I thought there were a lot of good players too. Vinicius Jr. played a
uh-huh.
great game. Rafinha, a player that
Our
we've
Barca player.
yeah, a player that was part of our club and we follow. I think he's been playing great,
Yeah.
and he played a good game today. And yeah, I just think this Brazilian team is so complete and so powerful. It's gonna be hard seeing a team actually give them the business and making them suffer. But I will say this, and I've gotten criticism among some friends for saying it, but Brazil haven't played a strong, like a truly strong team yet. I'm not saying they've played bad teams, but they haven't. They played some of the weaker teams. I don't think Serbia, Switzerland, or Cameroon were particularly strong, although Switzerland is a decent team, and Serbia also has a lot of good players, but don't play that great together. And of course, South Korea, as much as I love Sun, and as such a good player as he is, and as good as the team has been playing, there it's a huge, huge difference.
Yeah,
It's
it's
a
a big
true
difference in
mismatch. You
quality.
can't compare both teams. It's
Hmm.
night and day. And of course, this was an expected result, and it's what we were expecting from Brazil to do, right? Get games like this and just
Hmm.
use their flair, their
Hmm.
magic, and make other
No,
teams pay for it.
no, exactly. It's gonna be very hard for any team to beat this Brazilian team. It's gonna take something completely special. And you basically saw how they struggled, but Brazil to break down, for example, like teams that like are very like low block and defensively
Yeah.
solid. If
Well,
you go attack Brazil just like
mhm.
how South Korea did, you basically saw like, hey, you're in Brazil. You cannot go toe to toe with Brazil unless you're a France, unless you're in Argentina maybe, and even then, or even in England.
Yeah, I mean, not that England will be doing a lot of attacking with Southgate, but um, I think you're right, right, and we've seen this before. But at the same time, the reason, not that I disagree with you. I mean, I understand a low block is hard for virtually any team because a low block done right is a very frustrating play style.
Yeah.
At times we see the Netherlands use a low block, and I think that's what killed the U.S. at the end of the day. They weren't expecting. I mean, I understand. Yeah, they know the tactics and they can expect a certain play, but I don't think the players themselves understood how hard it is to break down a
Yeah.
compact, solid defense. And when there's so many of them in the area and they're tall and strong,
Mhm.
they're
No,
just hard to play against. And I think that's particularly true for a lot of teams. But of course, um, you know, I feel like Brazil have only truly played low block teams for the most part.
yeah.
Not low block, but defensively minded teams when they play against them.
No, true. And that game against in the U.S., I think the U.S. was just basically like showed their lack of experience in that stage. I think
And
Netherlands
also,
just like was a completely different level, both tactically and like the players at their disposal.
of course, and I think the problem with the U.S. more than the players, because of course the players are very young. It is one of
Hmm.
the youngest teams. I think it's the second youngest.
Hmm.
And with that being said, it's there's a lot of factors that come into play. Experience is something that's invaluable. People don't understand how important it is. The leadership, the confidence that comes with it, with the experience. But I don't think it was the experience that necessarily killed the U.S. chances. I think it was more the tactical mistakes and maybe the mistakes by the players themselves. I saw the midfield very disorganized.
Well, yeah, exactly. Yeah,
And
like
same
that.
with the defense. The last goal, I believe it was
Uh huh.
Dumfries who scored it.
Yeah, it was
He was
basically.
he was all by himself.
Uh huh.
There was no tracking whatsoever from Robinson or anyone in the box. So it's upsetting because we live here. We want to support the team of the country where we live, but it is what it is. I think the U.S. got as far as they could
Yeah,
in their.
yeah, true that. But back to Brazil. Brazil looked completely fired. And it was also Neymar was coming back from the injury.
Yeah, and I
Um,
thought he had a good game. Scored a
yeah,
penalty.
yeah, exactly.
Played a good
Do you
performance.
think that was a penalty?
Not that it matters. I mean,
Yeah, like
South Korea was
it
gonna
wouldn't
get
have.
punished.
See, it. I think that penalty does change like the result a little bit because hey, a 1-0 is completely different than like a 2-0 because at a 2-0 then like hey then you have to really go at them because a
True,
one
but
nil you can maybe
yeah,
hold like the same game plan and maybe like hit them on a counter. But 2-0 that means that now you have to go on the aggressive, and that when you're going against Brazil, that's the worst thing that you can possibly do. Give them an early goal.
I mean, yes, I agree with what you're saying. Like, I understand where you're coming from, and it makes sense. But at the same time, I feel like the goals are just gonna be inevitable. South Korea can only hold on for so long. They didn't have. I don't think they had the players to stop Brazil. I think it was Brazil were gonna bulldoze through that team either way.
Yeah,
Now,
definitely.
whether you want to say maybe there was maybe there was a bad call, giving it a foul. I mean, giving it a penalty, then maybe, maybe not. But again, this is
No,
something. If the game was closer, I'd agree with you. But I just think whether they had to go on the counter or not, or whether it changed things in the long run, I don't think Korea's too much a chance either way. But we have seen our fair share of controversial calls in this World Cup, especially one I can't get out of my head was in the first game, Ecuador versus Qatar, the offside goal that was not offside.
oh,
And
I think they just basically said outside is because like after the goalkeeper, um, basically like for example, I forgot like the root specific, but like for example, if the defender is ahead of the goalkeeper, the defender
no,
becomes like the last man.
right. No, I understand the rule. I just don't think that he touched the ball as the last man.
Uh, oh well, I personally don't
That's what I'm
remember.
saying. I don't know. The referee in this World Cup hasn't been bad. I just think VAR has been a little different, a little
Yeah,
weirder than usual.
yeah,
But
and I think especially on the penalties because the penalties so far in this World Cup, it's the very small penalties that have been like deemed as
yeah,
penalties.
and especially here, penalties mean so much because a lead in the World Cup in any match it's a lead.
Yeah, exactly.
It puts so much pressure, and it's already now, especially in the knockout rounds, all the
Hmm.
tenseness and all the pressure
A goal changes everything.
for sure. And I will say this: going back to the controversial calls, we can look at the game of Uruguay. I thought there was terrible refereeing against the Uruguayan team.
Hmm.
And I don't know. I don't think the refereeing has been bad overall, but I have seen some points where it's been a little iffy. And I know that
Hmm.
depends obviously on the officials themselves. FIFA isn't saying you got to give this away, but I don't know. Overall,
Yeah,
I'm very pleased with what I've seen today in both games. Of course, I would have liked Sun to have gone further, but realistically, it was Brazil. It was bound to happen.
yeah, but
And well,
just Brazil was just like a completely different beast, and
yeah,
they
I mean,
basically
they're favorites for a reason. Now, I want to ask you this before we wrap up the episode.
yeah,
In tomorrow's game,
yeah.
um, do you see Spain going forward, or do you see Morocco doing the upset?
Hmm. Okay, now Morocco is definitely going to be a very dangerous team because they beat Belgium.
Mm.
Well, a poor Belgium side, but they still beat
Well,
Belgium.
still, it's a great team.
Exactly, they beat them. Did they beat Croatia or did they tie? Um,
Who?
Morocco versus Croatia. How did that
Morocco
game?
was a tie.
It was a tie. It was a tie. Okay. Um. So it's a good side. It's a good side. They're in. Hmm. I think Morocco does have a good chance of beating Spain. Just I think Spain's quality is going to show. I think
So,
that
so,
midfield.
so if you had to give a prediction, who's winning?
I'm going for Spain. I think from here on out, it's just regular programming. I think that the favorites are going to win. I think it's going to be Portugal. I think it's going to be Spain.
Well,
I don't see any like underdogs winning.
I'll agree with you on the Spain one. Um, I love the Moroccan team. There's so many good players there, like Hakimi, Mazuri. Like they have a good side.
Hmm.
Bono too is a good goalkeeper, but
Okay.
as much as I like him and as good as they have played, obviously with also like players like Hakim Ziyech,
Hmm.
I don't think they're capable of wearing down the Spanish side. It's such an
It's
annoying
gonna be
team.
difficult. It's gonna be
Spain is
very
such a
difficult.
pesky team to play against because I know that they make fun of them for passing the ball too much, but listen, when you try to press them, there's no way you're
Yeah.
gonna get it back. The only way you can get the ball back from Spain is well, I mean, it's essentially through pressing, but you gotta do it at the right moments. If you press in the midfield, it's not gonna happen. You gotta press on defense because on the midfield is where they have their more tactically gifted players and where they play the best. If you do it on defense, they have some liabilities,
Yeah.
like Pau Torres, if he does play, or Laporte. He's not the best on the ball either. But do I see Spain winning? Yes. However, I don't. I see Portugal losing, and that is a hot take. But
No. But like Portugal can lose that game just because the same thing
because
happened
look,
in the Euros.
the only consistent player in the I'll say two. The only two consistent players in this Portuguese side have been Bruno Fernandes and, to a certain extent, Leao.
Now, Lao has been fire so
And
far in the World Cup.
I love that player so much.
Yeah,
Seeing him play is such a joy. He's so good.
yeah.
But I don't know. I and look, there's no bias here. I've made it very clear that I love Ronaldo. He's one of my idols as well. I obviously just value Messi more, and I think Messi is a better player. But Ronaldo's one of the all-time greats, the second best for me. And I like seeing him play well and do good, but he hasn't shown up for his country when they've
Yeah.
needed him.
Yeah.
I understand he's older now and he plays a more central role than what we've seen him do in the past because of the age, the wear
Mhm.
that we get from running so much. But he has not been there, and offensively, I don't think anyone has been. Bruno Fernandes, like we said, he's been the only one that's consistently been doing it with the assists, with the goals, and we'll have to see. I just don't trust the Portuguese defense to hold up. And Switzerland are a team that likes upsetting big teams, and they like giving you a hard game. I mean, we saw this in the Euros, beating France in penalties. It's another team that I can see being comfortable in overtime. But
Mhm.
when they lock down and they have players experienced like Granit Xhaka and Shaqiri, providing the coverage and the pressure, it's a hard team to play against.
It's
And
actually it's good.
listen, Uruguay was a hard game for Portugal. I don't
True.
want to hear. I don't want to hear they were
Oh no
dominating.
no 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 no! Portugal got very lucky in some instances
Portugal
because Frank.
got bailed.
Uh-huh. Mhm.
Betancourt almost scored the goal of the tournament as he made that run in,
Yeah.
and that would have been a goal
That
early on
Valverde
that would have
shot.
put him ahead. And
He,
not just that, right? I think that would have tied the game. I don't remember, but
mm,
they had good chances. They came close a lot of times. They
yeah.
were unlucky. They couldn't get the ball into the back of the net. But I will say this: if Switzerland play with a bit of confidence tomorrow, Portugal have it tough because I don't think this Portuguese team is full of confidence as of now.
It's gonna be a very interesting battle, and we're
Yeah, for sure.
definitely uh, yeah
No,
we'll
no, go ahead.
definitely
I'm
give
sorry.
our no we'll definitely give our reaction tomorrow
Hmm.
for our episode. Um, but I upset could happen. Just I don't think it's gonna happen. I think we're just gonna see the favorites go through, but
Well,
who knows?
in case,
Never assume.
yeah, in case someone wants to discredit me tomorrow, I will say it'll be a 1-0 Switzerland.
1-0 Switzerland. Okay, okay,
That's
okay.
my prediction. I don't know about you guys. Let us know in the comments what you think. Is Portugal good enough, or are they playing together well enough? Because I see a lot of individuality in that team. But
It,
are they the team to win it tomorrow? Can Spain move forward and go into a comfortable spot? Let us know in the comments. As always, stay tuned and let us know your thoughts in the comments. Thank you,
yeah,
guys.
yeah, definitely. As you said. Also, reminder, guys, I post a link on Twitter. If any of you guys want to join, you're always welcome to. If you guys want to join our discussion and just basically like hang out with us and basically just talk, you're always welcome to. But as Alex said, like, subscribe,